Interface Video, in cooperation with Fairfield Federal, presents Fairfield Today. Brought to you by Fairfield Federal Savings and Loan, Fairfield Medical Center, Fair Hope Hospice and Palliative Care, the Frankie Smith Funeral Home, Fairfield County Adam H., Dagger Law, and the Fairfield County Board of Developmental Disabilities.
Hello friends, and welcome to Fairfield Today. I'm Paul Jazz, and thank you for joining us, and glad to be telecasting again from the lobby downtown of Fairfield Federal on this another nice day in Lancaster and Fairfield County as we move through the springtime, getting ready for summer. Some big announcements maybe since last we've talked. Of course, the festival has their big acts named. We know the Fairfield County Fair is going to be coming back strong, and we're all looking forward to all the little events that go on periodically throughout Lancaster and Fairfield County. It's a good time to be coming out of everything, so we're excited about that. And speaking of that, second half of the show, we'll be talking about the COVID-19 with the director of the Fairfield County Health Department. That'll be in the second half of the show. First half, though, I was glad to have back Lancaster Mayor Dave Scheffler, and I don't know if it's a quarterly thing. It's really as often as I can catch you between vacations. That's really when I get you on.
And you do a good job of tracking me down.
I know sometimes you answer my texts from location. You're away. So I'm gone, or I'm going, or blah, blah, blah. You're a tough man to get, but busy time.
A full schedule.
Well, I'm sure that's it. We appreciate your coming on. Always enjoy the updates. Overall, city, everything pretty good now as we move into the spring and into the warmer months.
Yes. Orange barrel season.
We're going to talk about that.
We're going to talk about that. Yes, we are.
But one thing, we'll talk about it first, and I don't think over the years, we haven't talked too much about it in your tenure here. Our retirement of some of the really players in Lancaster, and this time we can actually talk about three big ones: the police chief, the fire chief, and the economic development director. These are three major role players in Lancaster, and it just so happens that within about a month, all three roll over.
That's right.
That's strange.
Yes. So Chief Pilar recently retired from the police department after over 30 years.
Yeah. Semper Fi, would like to plug that. He's a good Marine.
He's a good Marine. Yep. On June 3rd, Chief David Ward of the fire department is retiring, and after over 30 years. And it's interesting because those two, as you probably know, have a running battle about who's better, police and fire, and they actually started 30 days apart.
Is that right?
Yes.
And retiring within 30 days.
Retiring within 30 days. And then Mike Pettit, who's our economic development director, has been with the city over 20 years, started with the gas department and
did double duty there for quite a while.
As economic development director and gas department manager for a number of years, but a couple of years ago switched over to full-time economic development. Just in time to work on some projects like Magna and Google and Kyoto Integre and some of the other big things that have happened here recently. So all three of them are very important and valued members of the city administration, and we're going to miss all of them. Yeah. But we have good replacements for all of them also.
Now the police and fire, that falls, I'm guessing, under civil service.
Yes.
So that's a testing process, so you know well in advance.
Yes. Okay. Yes, we do. Yeah. So there's a step up based on civil service scores, and for any promotion from, say, in police department, officer to sergeant, sergeant to lieutenant, and up to assistant chief and then chief, are all based on tests that are given periodically. And our new police chief will be Nick Snyder, who's been here a long time. He's one of the younger police chiefs I'd say we've had in a while, so hopefully we'll be here for a long time. Very capable young man. On the fire side, Steve Maffin will be the new chief, and he's been a long time officer on the fire department and has a lot of experience with the EMS part of the department, and has been assistant chief for I'm going to say a year and a half now, so he's well prepared to move up. And on the economic development side, Stephanie Bosco will be filling in for Mike. She's been here, I'm going to say about 3 months now, but has a lot of experience in economic development. Worked for One Columbus, which is the local leg of Jobs Ohio, and also worked for several other cities in the economic development arena. So all three will be adequately replaced, and not that we're looking forward to the replacements, but they all deserved, after a long career, time to retire and spend time with their family and traveling.
And I guess that's one plus to the civil service system, is that when at the level of Chief Ward or Chief Pilar, when they go, the person that's been there has a long tenure.
Yes.
And probably has come up through the ranks.
Yes.
Like Ward did, like Chief Pilar. Everybody understands the program, and they've been in a position where they've been assisting or at least familiar with what their boss does. And so it's probably a much smoother transition there.
Yes. And because we're a statutory city, so we have to go by the civil service rules. And in some other cities like Columbus, you see in the newspaper they go outside and interview people from all over the country, but that's because they're a charter city and their charter allows them to do that. But we have to.
If you're a person in Detroit, you got a good chance of getting on in Columbus. That seems to work out well.
Yes.
Not here. You're not going to get on in Lancaster.
So you might be able to get in on the ground floor as an officer, but then you have to still work your way up through.
Now, when Stephanie Bosco was brought on, was that with the intent that out there eventually this would occur? Did you have that in the back of your mind?
Yes. I mean, we've known that Mike was going to retire.
Sure.
At some point, probably for a couple of years. And, when you get a certain age, like me, I'm going to retire from mayor in December 2023 because that's when my term is up. So you have a good idea when.
Is that when you look back on all the decisions you make? I would imagine turnover is always it's something that occurs all the time within your tenure as mayor.
Oh yeah, we have about 500 employees, and what we have somewhere between probably 13 and 15 departments, and there is all the time turnover in department heads and such that we need to replace, and typically we always have some ads out there for job replacement, whether it's sanitation workers or water department workers or police officers. Certainly we're still way down in strength on police officers. We're getting there in the fire department. We're closing in on that 84 number, but police, it's tough to make any progress in hiring police. We have a lot of early retirements. But we're making progress.
And I want to get on another topic here in a little bit, but just to kind of wrap this up, I was going to bring this up and you led right into it. It's a long process to get people in.
Yes. Whether
it's fire or police, there's a process, and everybody that takes a test don't make it, and everybody isn't always, just because you went in, that doesn't work that way. It's a real test and a lengthy time.
Yes, it takes months to hire a police officer or a firefighter, and not only do they have to take the civil service test, but there's obviously drug tests, a physical test, medical exam, psychological test, polygraph test. I mean, we want to make sure that we're hiring the right people for the right reason, and they're very well screened before they put on a uniform.
You mentioned it at the outset. It's getting to be orange barrel season in Central Ohio. Lancaster is familiar with that process, and many times we're very thankful that it does occur. There are places that by the time the word comes out they need to get paved, it's ready. 6th Avenue is probably a prime example of that. It has been ready for a while.
Yes, it has. And as we discussed before we came on air, that certain streets haven't been dug up after they were paved. It's because that is planned out well in the future. A lot of times we know infrastructure projects are coming down the road, so we do not pave those streets when we know we're going to have to dig them up in a couple of years. A prime example is 6th Avenue, and we've been working from west to east on 6th Avenue. Last year we did Roosevelt to Memorial. This year we're doing Memorial to Maple. because from Maple to Cherry Street is going to be closed from May 15th until August 31st for some underground sewer work right by Lanrico Park. It'll be closed between Boyd and Franklin.
Okay.
So there will be a detour. It's not only going to be a big hole in the street, but they're going to use the street for mobilization of equipment and materials in order to do that. So it's going to be some inconvenience this summer to get around that, but I'm sure the local residents won't have any trouble getting around.
And we're thankful that it's going to be done.
It's going to be done, and then next year, from Maple to Cherry will be resurfaced on 6th Avenue. We've got the summer paving program, which is paid for by the 3 mil levy that was passed now 8 years ago. It expires at the end of 23, but it provides a little over $2 million a year for resurfacing and for local match percentage for these other grants that we're able to get. And for example, the 6th Avenue from Memorial to Maple is a surface transportation program money. We're going to do South High from Maine down to Canal. That's an Ohio Public Works Commission grant that we have to apply for, and it's a competitive grant, so we have to score high in order to get the money. And then South Broad Street from Maine to Columbus is a Central Ohio Regional Planning Organization grant. Interestingly, that project was the top scorer in the competition for that money. This is the first year Corpo ever got money, and they got about $900,000, and we're getting $182,000 of it.
Nice.
We're good. So, and I already talked about the 6th Avenue closure, but other streets that we're going to pave.
Got about a minute.
Okay, I'll read fast. West Wheeling Street from Washington to Memorial, Washington Avenue from West Wheeling to West Fair, Garfield Avenue from Mulberry to Fair, Slocum from 5th to Fair, McLean Boulevard from Frederick Street to Grandstaff, Grandstaff from Sheridan to James, Kemper from Baldwin to Pleasantville Road, McKinley from West Fair to West 6th, Jefferson from West Fair to West 7th, Grant Avenue from West Fair to West 7th, Monroe Avenue from West Fair to 8th Avenue, and East Walnut Street from South High Street to South Maple Street.
Sounds like going to be a very productive time.
It is going to be a busy summer.
Yep.
And so there will be some inconveniences, but that goes with progress.
And that's exactly right, and we won't play. And I'm glad to hear nice West Side things being done there. I heard Washington and some of the other ones. I enjoy hearing that. Being a West Side boy, I enjoy hearing that.
Yes, and if we had another 10 minutes, we could talk about the process for selecting these streets.
Next time, let's do make a
the
point
mayor
of
doesn't
that.
choose the streets, and city council members don't choose the streets.
But you catch the heat or the.
Yes.
I know how it works. That's
Yes.
that's politics for you, and you've played that game.
That's public service. We won't call it politics.
I understand. Mayor Dave Scheffler with us. Always enjoyed the time together. Say goodbye to Chief Pillar, Chief Ward, Economic Development Director Mike Pettit, all great people in Lancaster and Fairfield County. Appreciate the work that you do in getting some, what we know will be fine replacements, and we'll be talking to all those folks here coming up. Thank you, David.
Right.
Mayor Dave Scheffler with us. We enjoy having him on Fairfield Today. We'll be back after this.
The Lancaster Festival returns for its 38th season, July 21st through the 30th. This year, we proudly present Rick Springfield on July 23rd and Lady A on July 30th. Reserve seating and general admission tickets are available at lancasterfestival.org, by phone at 740-687-4808, or at the box office located at 117 West Wheeling Street in Lancaster. For the full lineup, visit lancasterfestival.org.
Dagger Law has been part of the Lancaster community for more than 110 years. This is where we live and work. You'll see us at festivals, sporting events, and all around town. We consider our clients as friends, and we walk alongside you through challenging times. Whether you're a growing business, a changing family, facing litigation, planning your future, or dealing with land issues, we're right here. We are local. We are trusted. We are experienced. Dagger Law.
Fairfield Medical goes the extra mile to give attention to their patients, to their guests, anybody that comes within those doors.
There's no question that the staff there are all personally invested in seeing that I got the best care possible.
The staff was so comforting. I felt like she was in the best hands.
They basically gave me a second chance at life, and I'm going to make the most of it.
When we came here, when Dad was sick, you walked in the doors and you knew you made the right decision.
Yeah.
They treated Dad like he was so special.
Like he was the only one here.
And they not only treated our dad, but they treated our family.
Yeah.
We had cots, we had soup, we had food. I mean, they treated us like part of the family.
Yeah.
The Frankie Smith Funeral Home and Crematory in Lancaster and the Johnson Smith Funeral Home in Baltimore have a long and wonderful history of serving our community. Feel free to give us a call at 740-653-0652. Stop in and see us at either of our two locations, 405 North Columbus Street in Lancaster and 207 South Main Street in Baltimore. Respect for tradition, regard for change.
Welcome back to Fairfield Today. I want to thank the mayor. Always a pleasure to have him on and talk about some different things this time, about some retirements and some of the planning system going on with the paving here in Lancaster and Fairfield County, or really Lancaster. We enjoy that. Speaking of Lancaster and Fairfield County, it's good to have on the County Health Commissioner, Joe Ebel. Joe, thank you for joining us.
Oh, thanks.
I imagine you're about as, for these last couple of years, I don't know if there's been anybody more busy than you, and probably someone that would, maybe I could say, not enjoy the limelight perhaps as much as you've been on. You've probably been interviewed more in the last 2 years than probably your entire health career. Would that be safe?
Yeah, typically if your public health's doing your job, people don't realize that you're in the background preventing things. So when we have a pandemic or something big like that, we get a little bit more attention for good or bad, but we're always trying to prevent those kinds of things from happening in the first place.
Just like an umpire in a baseball game. If he does his job, you don't know his name, but boy, let him make a bad call and you know it. And your predecessor, I think the first time I ever had him on was when the botulism broke out at a location just not very far from here, a mile or so, and then I had him on, and then he was still, like when the pandemic just got hot, he was there, and then I think the transition occurred and you came on about that time. But you're right about that. I don't think I even crossed my mind much to talk about it because you do your job, you just don't think much about it. But boy, the last couple of years, I don't know, when you sign on for your job, I don't know, you think about this is going to happen, but exciting 2 years for you?
Yeah, we always plan for these kind of, pandemics or major outbreaks, but nothing that we think would typically last this long.
Yeah. And not over yet, obviously, not. Yeah. So it's been a while. But I don't know how many folks, I know you send out a massive email. I think it comes out every week. I think I get it every week. Maybe it's every month, I'm not sure. But it's one of them this time, it really caught my eye, were the county health rankings, and it lists Fairfield County among the healthiest 25% of counties in Ohio for both health outcomes and health factors. That's got to be, in your mind, pretty good, thinking we're doing the job we're supposed to do.
Yeah, I think we're ranked 14th or 15th, depending what measure you look at in the state, so that's pretty good.
It's good. Is there anything you would attribute that to? Just diligence and everybody that works for you, everybody? I know it takes a team out there to get your job. You're the point man, and for good or bad, you're the one that's on TV, but I know you have a staff out there that works very hard in these last couple of years. Been a lot on them too.
Yeah, and a lot of the health status depends on things we call social determinants of health. So it's high school graduation rates, unemployment levels, children that live in poverty, just general kind of the social support system, what are household incomes in the county. Those are all things that really have impacts on someone's health status over their lifetime. So, while we try to work on, preventing disease with vaccine or keeping sewage systems working and food safe, things like that, there there are a lot of things that the broader system, people might not think, that education is public health, but it has a big determining factor on what someone's health status is going to be, and in fact, how long they'll live.
And before we went on, just a little chit chat we were having, you talked about a big program you had where you brought in a bunch of tires, and really that's the kind of thing that could have an impact on health in Fairfield County.
Yeah, in April we did a tire cleanup day where people brought in tires up at the Workforce Center on Coon Path, and we had over 1,700 tires collected and taken away by a recycler that day. So anytime we can get those, out of backyards or off of, people's lots where they're going to breed mosquitoes this time of year, or just be a general trash problem, that's always good for the community.
I think that's an item that people just, as a rule, don't know what to do with them. They just leave them sit there because, well, where do I put them? Mm-hmm. But is this an annual event?
Yeah, we'll probably have it next year, and then there's another one that is in Lancaster that's probably scheduled in the fall that we'll also be helping out with.
Okay, very good. And I want to circle back to something you talked about earlier. You talked about these social concerns, what kind of effect they could have, and some of the other statistics that you listed in this release I was reading about is that 8% of Fairfield County children live in poverty compared to the state rate of 17%. And the smoking rate is at 21%, well above the national average. So poverty is better for Lancaster and Fairfield County, but the adult smoking rate appears to be much, much worse than it is for the rest of the state. Or is that the national average?
The
national average, yeah.
Yeah, that's one of the limitations with this, county health rankings. They compare you to other counties in Ohio, and that's nice, but Ohio is one of the unhealthiest states in the country. So it's kind of, like grading on a curve. If Ohio's thinking, well, 20% is not bad for a smoking rate, but the national average is 12.5%. Yeah. So you have to kind of look outside of the borders and see what is really possible, as opposed to where we are in Ohio, or comparing us to West Virginia or Kentucky or something.
Yeah. Are the more healthier, whatever makes us a healthy state or not, out west, would they be when perhaps there's more open spaces and less congestion?
It's pretty much everywhere. There's like high smoking rates in this part of the country. In some of the southern states, there's poverty, there's other issues.
Yes.
But a lot of it has to do with those economic factors. If you have resources that people can get out easily and exercise, good park systems, public transportation that people can get to places, healthy food access, those are all important factors.
Talking with Joe Ebel. Joe is the health commissioner for the Fairfield Department of Health, the head guy here in Lancaster and Fairfield County. And one of the things that you see as you move around the county is tough getting people to work. And you see it, I guess people talk about it in restaurants because that's what most people see it in, but it's all around. People are struggling to get people in. Has that anything affected your department or your ability to get people or retain people?
Yeah, we've had a fair amount, like everyone, a fair amount of turnover in the last year. We've got 2 new nurses starting in a couple weeks, and those have been hard to find often. It's just there's so many employment opportunities out there that you're competing with a lot more.
Nursing is a big thing, isn't it? Yeah.
And then a lot of people also have the option to work from home, which wouldn't necessarily work out in a lot of our positions.
Sure.
So it's a different kind of competition to what we're used to.
Yeah, we're just talking about. I'm a little surprised at that. I guess you think of your kind of cloistered environment there. Well, everybody is just working there, and they do what they do, but they're affected like everybody else. It's just a part of the fabric of society. As other jobs come open or other things happen, it affects you just like everybody else.
Yeah, no. When I graduated from college, it was if you could find a job, you were doing good. Now they often have a lot of opportunities, choices that they can make to pick and choose what's a good fit. So it's a great time to be looking for a job, that's for sure.
And I'm sure, for example, the nursing thing, that's a cyclical program, but boy, it's like I think you indicated, if you're a nurse now, you you're in the catbird seat now. You've got a lot of if you want to move or you want to drive, if you're open to some of that, then there are a lot of opportunities.
Yeah, I think a lot of times, especially for new college graduates, if they can move anywhere they want, you're not just competing with other businesses in the county. You're competing statewide and even nationally.
Well, I just had the mayor on before you, and that's one of the things he talked about in the police force. It's you hire people, you spend all that time hiring and training. You probably are in some of that too. First thing you know, they move to a bigger city or bigger opportunity, and Lancaster just can't be in that competitive position.
Yeah, I mean, it's fortunate here because we are so close to Columbus that you can have both worlds.
Yeah. One thing I think when you look at what the health department does, I know that you do other things. You're in charge of inspecting restaurants. You do all that stuff, and people, I think, are pretty aware of that. But one of the things as we move into the summer now, we just had some rain recently. We talked a little bit about the tires and stuff, is spraying for mosquitoes and ticks, which I hadn't thought about ticks, but that's a big part of what you do here, hitting into the spring, into this damp time of the year.
Yeah, we do worry about mosquitoes because there are diseases that are carried by mosquitoes. West Nile comes to mind as probably the most common, but there's St. Louis and lacrosse encephalitis that we also see. And those can result in severe hospitalizations or worse. So, what we really try to do is work on prevention. If you have standing water on your property, drain that water at least once a week. If it's a bird bath or flower pots that hold water, or gutters or anything, containers, anything that's going to hold water for more than a week in the summer months could, result in your breeding your own mosquitoes in the backyard. And that's the last thing you want to do.
Now, is that done throughout the summer? Is that an ongoing program in the spring and the summer?
Yeah, especially in the
different locations.
Especially in the spring, you'll have a lot of floodwater type mosquitoes with spring floods, and then through the summer, even smaller containers and areas that just will hold water for a couple of weeks can be a real problem.
Yeah. So, do you print out that schedule? Would people know when they could expect something perhaps in their area?
Yeah, we don't spray, county-wide because a lot of it's rural enough that you just couldn't make a dent. But we are working with some of the villages, and Lancaster sprays themselves, and some of those more densely populated areas where it makes more sense.
Got about a minute left, and we haven't thankfully talked a lot about COVID, but booster shots are still going on. I guess we're now into the fourth shot, the second booster.
Yeah, it's recommended for anyone, primarily people 50 and over with chronic health conditions. So it's a good idea to get that extra booster if it's been quite a while since you had your first booster. And we still have low case levels right now, which is great. Yeah. But they have been increasing for about the last 4 weeks.
We've seen that going up a little bit, haven't we?
And there's, it's all subvariants of the Omicron virus that we had back in December, January. But there is a couple new subvariants in South Africa that are spreading like wildfire. So those kinds of things you have to worry about, eventually coming.
Are these more the highly transmissible but not as deadly type?
We don't know a lot about the new ones other than they're highly transmissible, that's for sure.
And I won't put you on the spot, we'll wrap it up here, but do you think these booster things are ongoing?
I think at some point it'll, at a minimum, be like your flu shot, where you're going to have
like a flu shot.
Really get one once a year.
Yeah. So, well, thanks for all you guys have done. All your health department, you've done a terrific job. Obviously, the numbers prove that out. Appreciate all you and your staff have done to help the county. We're very fortunate to have good folks like you here. Thank you.
Thank you.
Joe Ebel, who is the health commissioner for the Fairfield Department of Health. Glad to have him on. So thank you for joining us on Fairfield Today.
Interface Video, in cooperation with Fairfield Federal, presents Fairfield Today. Brought to you by Fairfield Federal Savings and Loan, Fairfield Medical Center, Fair Hope Hospice and Palliative Care, the Frankie Smith Funeral Home, Fairfield County Adam H., Dagger Law, and the Fairfield County Board of Developmental Disabilities.